They called him a primitive butcher with outdated tools. But when the alien emperor's life flickered out beneath the cold lights of a foreign operating room, only the human knew what to do. Dr. Elias Crane had spent his entire career surrounded by blood and miracles. On Earth they called him the hands of God, a surgeon who could pull life back from the edge with only a scalpel and intuition. But out here, in the Orion Alliance's Galactic medical station, he was a relic, an oddity. Human medicine is obsolete, the tall blue-skinned Threxian chief surgeon sneered one morning, his triple eyes narrowing. We use nanite reconstruction, quantum grafting, not knives. Crane said nothing. He just adjusted his surgical gloves, feeling their comforting stretch. In this sterile place of glowing instruments and humming machines, his tools were considered barbaric. Still, he knew one truth no algorithm could compute. Healing was not just about science, it was about instinct. He had been brought to the station as part of a cultural exchange, a political gesture between Earth and the Galactic Council. The aliens were curious about human biology, but less interested in human knowledge. For months, Crane had been ignored, given minor duties, and even laughed at. Then the call came. A sudden code black echoed through the station's intercom. Emergency in the Imperial Ward. The Emperor of Velian Prime has suffered a neural cascade. The corridors erupted into chaos. The alien physicians, dozens of them, rushed toward the shimmering medical chamber, their limbs moving in desperate synchronization. Crane followed quietly, curiosity piqued. Inside the chamber, floating above a bed of energy fields, lay the Emperor himself, a towering, six-limbed being of light and flesh, his body pulsing with fading radiance. Even Crane, who had seen men die on battlefields, felt awe. Neural collapse is complete. One medic hissed. The brain lattice is fracturing. Deploy nanite swarm. No responses. Immune field is rejecting them. Crane watched the readings spike into chaos. The alien machines were helpless. They didn't understand failure. They had never lost a patient before. The Threxian chief turned to Crane, exasperated. Human, step back. You can do nothing here. But Crane saw something in the Emperor's pattern, an irregular pulse, a rhythm, something that felt alive. It was almost like a heartbeat hidden under alien layers. He stepped forward. He's not gone yet, he said quietly. The Threxian hissed. You presume to understand the Emperor's anatomy. Crane's voice was calm. No, but I understand life and how it refuses to let go. He reached for his surgical case. The aliens gasped as he opened it, revealing his stainless steel instruments. Primitive, shocking. But when the Emperor's biolight began to dim completely, a desperate silence filled the room. The Threxian looked at him one last time. You'll kill him. Crane's eyes met his. He's already dying. And with that, humanity's last surgeon began the most forbidden operation in the galaxy. The operating chamber fell silent as Dr. Elias Crane rolled up his sleeves. Around him, alien medics hovered like statues, six-eyed, bioluminescent, their hands trembling with outrage and disbelief. Seal the room, Crane said. No interruptions. The Threxian chief surgeon hissed. You will not contaminate the Emperor with your primitive flesh tools. Crane ignored him. He tapped the holographic display until the energy dome shimmered shut. Then watch and learn. The alien Emperor's anatomy was a nightmare of biology and physics. Semi-translucent tissue infused with streams of bioelectric light, organs pulsing out of sync, a nervous system that seemed to hum like an engine. The neural lattice was breaking down, threads of energy snapping one by one. To the aliens it was a sacred process they could not touch. To Crane, it was a patient. He laid out his instruments, scalpel, forceps, sutures, and a portable neural stimulator, all Earth-made, all dismissed as crude. He steadied his breathing. The sterile light above him seemed to pulse with the dying rhythm of the Emperor's heart. Vitals collapsing, an alien nurse whispered. 40 seconds before total cortical fade. Crane closed his eyes for a moment, as he always did before a difficult surgery, to remember why he did this. He didn't just cut to save life, he cut to remind the universe that life wanted to be saved. He made the first incision. The aliens recoiled. The Emperor's bioflesh opened like a shimmering veil, releasing a faint, luminous mist. His inner tissues glowed with liquid starlight. Crane's eyes narrowed. Incredible, but wonder turned quickly to focus. He scanned the neural matrix threads of living light, and realized it wasn't dying because of a disease, it was overheating. The Emperor's mind had been attacked, a surge of psychic feedback from an assassination attempt. Nanites couldn't fix that. They didn't understand pain. He reached for a micro-cooled filament tube, inserted it gently into the glowing mass. and began regulating the energy flow manually, stabilizing the pattern as if he were tuning an instrument. One of the alien nurses gasped. He's syncing the frequency. The Threxian chief stepped closer, watching in stunned silence. That's impossible without lattice calibration technology. You're guessing Crane didn't look up? No, I'm listening. He pressed the neural stimulator against a cluster of bioluminescent tissue. The Emperor's body convulsed violently, light flaring through the chamber like a solar storm. Heartbeat returning, said the nurse in disbelief. Cortical flow stabilizing, Crane exhaled. He's fighting back. Let's help him. He worked for hours, hand, mind, and intuition dancing together, reconnecting the alien's life one delicate thread at a time. When the final pulse synchronized, the Emperor's glow shifted from pale blue to golden white, a sign of vitality among his species. The monitors sang a tone none of them had ever heard before. Crane lowered his tools, sweat streaming down his face. We're not done yet, but he's alive. The aliens stared in silence. Then, slowly, the Threxian chief whispered, You used no nanites, no quantum grafts. How? Crane gave a tired smile. Sometimes, the hand knows what the machine never can. But as he stepped away, alarms blared across the station. Unauthorized biological intervention detected. Security units inbound. Saving the Emperor had just made Dr. Elias Crane a criminal. The alarms screamed through the Galactic station like furious banshees. Red light cascaded across the operating room walls as the energy dome around the chamber began to shimmer and crack. Dr. Elias Crane didn't flinch. He stood at the center of the storm, gloves still slick with the faint glow of alien blood. Behind him, the Emperor's vitals pulsed steady and strong, a miracle the machines had already deemed impossible. The door burst open. A squad of Imperial enforcers poured in, armor glinting, weapons trained directly on him. Their voices were metallic and cold. Step away from the sovereign being. You are under arrest for biological interference with the Imperial body. Crane raised his hands slowly. He was dying. Unauthorized medical contact is treason. One of them snapped. You defiled the Emperor's sanctum. The Threxian chief surgeon, still trembling from shock, finally spoke. Wait. He saved him. But the enforcers' glare silenced even him. They shackled Crane's hands, a cruel irony for a man whose life depended on them, and dragged him through the polished corridors of the Galactic medical station. Aliens of every shape and hue stopped to stare as the human passed, whispers rippling behind him. Is it true? The human touched the Emperor. They say he cut him open like an animal. No one touches the sacred body and lives. Crane said nothing. He had done his duty. Whether they killed him or not didn't matter. The Emperor breathed again. That was enough. They threw him into a cold, translucent cell. The walls pulsed faintly with containment energy. His surgical gloves were gone, his tools confiscated. For the first time in years, his hands felt empty. Hours passed, or maybe days, time blurred in the static hum of alien confinement. Then the wall shimmered, and someone stepped through. It was her, Kylara, the Emperor's daughter. Her presence filled the cell like moonlight, her eyes, deep silver pools, fixed on him with quiet intensity. You touched my father, she said softly. Do you understand the gravity of that? Crane met her gaze. I understand that he's alive. Her expression flickered. The Council doesn't see it that way. They say you desecrated the sacred vessel. Some demand your execution. He gave a faint smile. They can have my head, if it helps him keep his. Kylara studied him for a long time, then said, The Council is convening at dawn. They will decide your fate. She hesitated. My father's light has grown stronger since your surgery. The healers don't understand it. They say something human still pulses inside him. Crane's eyes softened. It's called a heartbeat. Her silver gaze lingered on him, conflicted. I don't know what you are, Dr. Crane, a savior or a blasphemer. But tomorrow you'll face beings who believe no human should touch the divine. She turned to leave, her robes whispering like silk. If you have anything to say to defend yourself, you should prepare it now. Crane leaned back against the cold wall. No defense, he murmured. Only the truth. Outside, through the cell's faint energy haze, the stars of the Orion Rim burned silently, witnesses to a man who had just changed the meaning of healing across the galaxy. The Hall of Verdicts was a cathedral of light and geometry, walls of living crystal that echoed every voice, every heartbeat. In its center, on a floating dais, stood Dr. Elias Crane, a lone human surrounded by an ocean of alien eyes. The Galactic Council loomed above him, 12 beings from 12 worlds, each representing a different species and philosophy. Their forms shimmered. One was made of vapor, another of shifting stone, another flickered like a digital flame. Together they radiated judgment. Kylara stood near the front, her expression unreadable. A booming voice echoed through the chamber. Dr. Elias Crane of Sol 3, you stand accused of trespassing upon sacred bias sovereignty, unauthorized interference with a sovereign being, and violation of interspecies medical protocols. How do you plead? Crane's voice was calm, guilty of trying to save a life. A murmur rippled through the crowd. The Threxian chief surgeon, once his loudest critic, stepped forward as a witness. He acted without clearance. He used metal blades, primitive techniques. Yet the Emperor lives. The counselor made a vapor hissed, and that life may now be corrupted. The Emperor's biolattice was touched by alien enzymes. His purity compromised. Crane raised his head. His purity. He's a living being, not a relic. I didn't corrupt him. I saved him from becoming another statistic on your machines. Your instincts, the vapor counselor spat, are not science. No, Crane said quietly. They're older than science. The hall buzzed with outrage. The counselors conferred in low, vibrating tones. Then Kayla rose. If I may speak. The hall fell silent. Even the crystal walls seemed to pause their hum. My father breathes because of this man, she said firmly. Every healer failed. Every algorithm declared him dead. But this human, he saw life where others saw decay. She stepped forward, her silver robes trailing light. Is our science so perfect that we cannot learn from something simpler? Is compassion now a crime? The counselor shifted uneasily. Crane watched her, surprised. Her words were not rebellion, they were hope. Then a thunderous chime shook the chamber. The central dais flared with energy as a holographic projection appeared, a pulse of golden light, resonating with a deep, slow rhythm. It was the Emperor's life signal. The projection spoke in a low, resonant tone. Council of the 12, this human saved me. Gasps erupted across the hall. Every counselor turned toward the light. I saw death approaching. The Emperor continued, his voice trembling like a storm. The machines failed. The algorithms froze. But the human touched my heart, not with metal, but with meaning. In his imperfection, I found truth. Kylara bowed her head, tears glimmering in her eyes. The Emperor's light pulsed brighter. Release him. Honor him. For life, no matter its form, is sacred only when it is shared. The hall filled with silence. Then slowly, one by one, the counselors extinguished their judgment lights, the sign of acquittal. Crane exhaled deeply, relief flooding through him. But as the Emperor's signal faded, a final line echoed in his mind like thunder. Your work is not done, human. There is darkness coming, and it knows how to kill life itself. The celebration was brief. Dr. Elias Crane had barely stepped out of the Hall of Verdicts when the alarms began again, not the metallic wails of security, but a low organic rumble that made the walls tremble. The crystal corridors of the Galactic station darkened one by one, their radiant veins flickering to black. The Threxian chief surgeon, now pale and shaken, turned to Crane. That isn't a system fault, Kylara's voice echoed from behind. It's the thing my father warned us about. Through the observation window, space itself seemed to warp. A vast obsidian mass drifted toward the station, devouring starlight as it came. It wasn't a ship, it was alive. A void organism, larger than cities, its surface rippling with tendrils of shadow. Every ship it touched went silent, its crew lost in seconds. The null bloom, whispered Kylara, a living plague. It consumes bioenergy, the very essence of life. My father's fleet fought it once. We thought it was destroyed. Crane stared at it, horrified. The creature moved like a wound spreading across reality, swallowing energy fields, extinguishing the luminous architecture of the station as if snuffing out candles. Then came the screams. Down the corridors, medics and soldiers collapsed, their biolight fading, their bodies withering into lifeless husks. Medical bay now, Crane shouted. He sprinted through the halls with Kylara and a small team of alien physicians. The smell of ozone and decay filled the air. When they reached the bay, hundreds of beings lay motionless. Monitors flickered, readings flat. Crane grabbed his scanner. No wounds, no toxins. It's draining the energy right out of them. The Threxian shook his head. Nothing can survive that. Once the null bloom feeds, it leaves no spark. Crane's eyes narrowed. Maybe not for machines. He knelt beside a collapsed healer, a small being of liquid light whose glow was fading fast. Crane pressed his fingers against its chest, feeling nothing but cold vibration. Then instinct took over. He closed his eyes, letting his pulse steady, then began manual resuscitation, compressing, breathing, forcing rhythm into a body that shouldn't even have one. Kylara stared, bewildered. That's not how our kind revives. Maybe it is now, Crane grunted. Seconds passed, then a flicker. The healer's biolight trembled, then brightened, faint but real. "He's alive," Crane whispered. Kylara's voice was soft with wonder. "You're using your own energy to restart them." Crane smiled faintly. "Guess contagious." More aliens were brought in, all drained, all nearly gone. Crane worked tirelessly, moving from one to another, his hands glowing faintly now from the bioelectric transfer. The aliens watched in stunned silence as the primitive human breathed life back into beings who had given up hope, but the effort took its toll. Each revival weakened him, his vision dimming, his skin pale and slick with sweat. Kylara grabbed his arm. "Stop, Elias, you're killing yourself." He shook his head, barely standing. "If I stop, they die. And if they die, so does hope." The station shook violently. Through the windows, the null bloom's black tendrils scraped against the outer shields, splitting light apart like silk. The Emperor's voice echoed suddenly through every speaker, calm, resonant, powerful once more. "My healer, the darkness hungers for life, but perhaps only life can fight it." Crane looked up at Kylara, his breath shallow. "Then let's give it something it's never tasted before." The Galactic station trembled on the edge of oblivion. Outside, the null bloom wrapped the structure in a cocoon of black mist, feeding on every spark of life within. The corridors, once bright with alien radiance, now flickered like dying candles. Dr. Elias Crane could barely stand. His hands, the same hands that had once performed miracles, now glowed faintly blue. The energy he had poured into others, draining his own strength. Kylara gripped his shoulders, her eyes wide with fear. "You can't fight it alone. The null bloom is devouring entire worlds." Crane smiled weakly. "Maybe, but I've spent my whole life fighting death, one heartbeat at a time. This is just another patient." The Emperor's voice resonated again through the collapsing station. "Human healer, the creature feeds on essence, not matter. It hungers for the pulse of life itself. You cannot cut it. You must teach it." "Teach it," Crane muttered. "Yes, you gave me life through pain and care. Give it the same." Kylara stared at him. "He means, connect with it. Let it see what life truly is." Crane blinked. "You're suggesting I heal the thing that's killing us?" She nodded slowly. "Isn't that what you do?" He almost laughed. "That's insane." "Most miracles are," she said softly. With the Emperor's guidance, they opened a path to the central biocore, a spherical chamber pulsing with the energy of thousands of species. The null bloom's tendrils were already burrowing through the hole, leaking darkness into the heart of the station. Crane stepped forward, every instinct screaming to run. But instead, he placed his glowing hands on the edge of the dark mass. The surface rippled like ink, cold, hungry, infinite. "Hey," he whispered to it, "I know you're starving, but death doesn't have to be your only language." The darkness quivered. Inside it, he felt mind's countless echoes of beings it had consumed. Pain, confusion, loneliness. He closed his eyes and reached deeper. "You're not empty. You're full of what you took. You just forgot what it meant to live." The creature screamed a sound like tearing metal and thunder as Crane's energy poured into it. The biocore flared, light meeting shadow, a war of pulse against hunger. Kylara shielded her face as the chamber filled with radiance. "Elias," she cried, "you'll burn yourself out." He looked back, smiling faintly through the blaze. "Then at least I'll go doing what I was born for." The explosion was silent. When the light faded, the null bloom was gone, dissolved into millions of tiny glowing motes drifting through space like fireflies. The Galactic station floated in calm starlight once more. In the center of the biocore, Kylara found him lying still, his face peaceful. His hands were faintly illuminated, as if the stars themselves had touched them. But as she wept beside him, a faint pulse flickered in his wrist. "Impossible," she whispered. The Emperor's voice echoed gently. "Life answers those who believe in it. The healer sleeps, but he is not gone." Kylara looked up at the stars, at the fireflies, that had once been the null bloom, and smiled through her tears. "He saved us all," she whispered. "And now, even the darkness remembers how to live." Epilogue. Months later, the Galactic Council rebuilt the station not as a monument to science, but as a temple of healing, where humans and aliens studied side by side. Above its gates, carved in 3,000 languages, were the Emperor's final words. "The hand that heals is not defined by its species, but by its heart." And in the deepest chamber, preserved in a beam of soft golden light, rested a simple earth-made scalpel, Dr. Elias Crane's last tool.